and welcome to the He Doesn't Want a podcast. Today I am here with the gaffer stroke head coach of Ards Rangers, Jackie Kerr. The podcast is always sponsored by Learners Trust Driving School and Drumble Park Racecourse. So I'm going to start just by asking Jackie, how are you keeping, mate? You all good?
Not too bad in the circumstances. Thanks for having me on, mate. Much appreciated.
No, I really appreciate you giving up your time. Obviously, we've no time dedicated to football at the moment, so we might have a wee bit more time to do things like this.
True.
What's your thoughts on the football season? Do you think are you a bit of an optimist about it, or do you think we're going to get playing, or do you see it's not going to happen? I'm
always a bit of an optimist, and I'm hoping that we can get back to it. But as time goes on, I think the window opportunities looking more and more unlikely. We had a bit of brief chat there. I still think if we even started in maybe the end of March with the late nights, if there's 12 league games, there's no reason why we couldn't do Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday and have the season knocked off in even a month or 6 weeks. But the longer it goes, I would say the more likely it is to not go on the next season, which waiting from now to August, I think will be an absolute disaster for some people waiting a long time to get back playing.
It's one of them things as well. The bright nights might save us, but even if the league don't think we can get in the sections they've put in, even if it's done some sort of cup or something just to get boys playing, I think it doesn't even have to be promotion relegation anymore. It just has to be some sort of competitive football, because after playing friendlies for 6 months last year as well, it's not just football we want back, it's competitive football. And like you said, 100%. August is a long time away.
It's too long. I know we'll have to take other things into consideration with the health side of things, but if there's an opportunity to get back and do something where there is no promotion, no relegation, I think most people would jump at it. I definitely think a bit of competitive football is well needed, much needed, sorry.
Yeah. What I want to do now, I want to talk about your career as a player, because I know you had a very successful career as a player before you get into coaching. Where did it all start for you playing?
Started off, my first real senior side was Crusaders. Went there when I was about 17, 18-year-old. That was an experience in itself. The team at that stage was full of players like Glenn Delop, Kirk Hunter, Michael Cash, Sidney Burrows. Else I'm thinking now. Roy Walker was actually playing a bit then, so it was a brave while ago. And as a kid playing in the reserve team, you were getting the odd, and you were brought up to the first team and stuff. So it was a good ground and a good schooling basically in the senior setup. So from there, I went to Carrick Rangers to spell at Carrick Rangers. The second team manager at Crusaders, Jim O'Rourke, took on the manager's job at Carrick Rangers, and basically went down, played for Jim down there, and I must say, probably one of the most enjoyable periods of my career. Some great lads, some great players. John McGrath, Gary Truitt, Noel Dean, Conor McCaffrey played there, Croffy McRae, and the ring them off here, Stuart Owens, Graham Arthur, with some really good players. And around that time, we had a good side, and we probably underachieved a wee bit. And my memory's not the greatest. And then I would talk to the guys, and you think back to some of the games that you played, and they maybe trigger something and say, I think we got beat by the Glens, I think 1-0 in the semi-final of the Coca-Cola Cup it was back then. Couldn't even remember playing it, and they were able to tell me who was playing and when they scored. And I was really, I can't even remember that. And really good social team with those guys as well. It was a case of we used to go down, play our match on a Saturday, leave our bags in the changing room, and everybody used to go out for a night out in Belfast. And it was that sort of real togetherness, really good squad, good group of players, and some quality players as well there, And from there, where to go? I went to Carrick Rangers, back to Crusaders. I was in a bit older and played in the first team, mostly for Crusaders when I went back then. From there to Bangor, to Dundela, and then to Ards Rangers. Went to Ards Rangers, I think when I was about 36, 37. Ended up winning a couple of leagues, playing in the Intermediate Cup final, 2 Clarence Cup finals, and so it was probably one of the most successful bits of my career when I was in the twilight of my career. So it actually was a really good move. But a bit of a varied career from Premier League to First Division to Amateur League, so enjoyable, totally enjoyable. Missed it like mad.
Playing Irish League, playing Premier Division, First Division, and then dropping to Amateur League. Obviously, you said you were 36, 37, but you probably thought at that point, I'm more or less probably done what I can at this level, and I've dropped down a level just to enjoy my last couple of years. What brought you to the Ards Rangers at that point?
Well, basically, I was at the Duns and I knew at the Duns that was pretty much it wasn't going to happen the next year. I had a chat with the manager, like Snapples, at the time. Great guy, and I'm still really good friends with Snapples. And he was straight with me. He said, "Look, you can stay on, but your game time may not be as much as it was previously," which is fair enough. I really appreciated that. Yeah. So it was really a decision then. I still wanted to play, and I still loved playing. And it was where I'm going to go. And I lived in Ards at the time. So Lee Forsyth was the manager of Ards Rangers. And he gave me a call and he says, would you come and have a chat with me? And he tells this story. I don't know if he said it. So I said, no problem. I'll go down and have a chat with Lee. At that stage, Lee was like Marmite. Yeah, I loved him or hate him. He'll tell you this himself. There's no behind the door here. So I went down and met him, and I said, I'm not going to lie to you. People say this about you. And he goes, well, at least you're up front anyway. And I said, but I make my own mind up about people. And from then, signed for Ards Rangers. And it was the best thing at that stage that I did. And I went from a midfielder to a right back when the legs just weren't as capable of getting up and down the pitch. And from there, I just really enjoyed my football, and led into my 40s in the Premier Amateur League. And, then when my legs sort of at that level were gone, and I went and managed our second team. I was player manager for the second team. We ended up playing, there was about 43 or something like that. So a really good spell at the end of my career. Really, really enjoyed it. And we had really good success with that Ards Rangers team. You would have never thought, because they were just mad. Basically, you went into that changing room and you said, how on earth is this team ever going to compete? But you know what? It did. And it was just that mix of players. You had your steady players, you had your sort of your match winners, the ones who would drag you over the line, and then you had your ballers like Saran Newbury and name a few others at the time, Darren Sterlings, etc., who could just win the game for you. So we had a really good mix, although they were just totally mad, I have to say. And we look back and we laugh at it now, but it was a very successful time,
Yeah, like you said, it's all about the mix. And obviously Lee done well recruiting players, because he brought in players who were probably younger and hungry, and then he brought in people like yourself who were more experienced and could guide these players and help them. And 3 league titles was some going. And I spoke to Lee previously, and I think the fact that people might not like him is he's just confident in himself, which he's entitled to be, because he's been successful in his management career so far. And that confidence, does that rub off on the players? And was there a certain stage at Ards Rangers where you realised you were doing something special for the club?
We basically never knew we were beaten. There was games, and as I say to my players now, winning breeds winning. Once you're on a run of wins, then you always think you're going to win the game. And we always thought in the Ards Rangers team that even when we weren't playing well, we always thought we were going to win the game. We always thought we had enough to go and win the game. And Lee would have been labelled, and he'll tell you this himself. We chat about it every now and then. He would say, he was labelled the long ball team. And I've chatted to people from other teams and they say, you are just a long ball team. That's all you are. That's all you got about you. And I say to him, well, tell me this here. If we're just a long ball team, why can you're a manager or your team not devise a game plan to defeat us? You know what I mean? I said, I think we were the highest scorers in the league about 2 or 3 years, 2 years in the trot or something like that. And, for a long ball team, we did all right as such, but we had players in that team who could play as well. So a bit of a myth. But my thing back to them was, if we were a long ball team, well, why could you not adapt your tactics to deal with it? Because we were successful, and it worked, so.
That's the thing at most levels of football, really. You look at the players you have, you look at their abilities, and you play to your team's strength. I know some coaches may have philosophies, but football's all about just winning games. Really, that's the most important thing. Winning games. Now, other people would, to me personally, but other people I've had on previously would say the most important thing to them is to enjoy watching it. I enjoy victories more than anything, and it's just everyone's different sort of opinions on football, really. But to me, whatever works, whichever successful, just do it.
You'd ask my wife what she prefer here, because on a Saturday night, if I come in and we've got beaten, but we played a lovely game of football, it was lovely to watch, or we were rubbish, but we won 1-0, because she'll tell you, rubbish 1-0 all day long, because I'm not a great loser, like, I gotta be honest, never have been, and still the same. Well, I've mellowed slightly, but I don't take defeat too well, but I think as you get older, you learn to deal with that a bit better. But I agree with you. It's about winning. If you can add a bit of flair into that, and it's great to watch, all that's super. But that's it. Ultimately, it's about winning.
Yeah, once you start to be successful, that's when you can start to play around with it a wee bit and try and make it a wee bit more aesthetically pleasing. But sometimes it's just about winning games. It's for you as players. Was it harder, do you think, to win the Amateur League for the first time, or was it harder to defend it?
The win for the first time, I mean, what an amazing run to that. I mean, for it to come down to the two matches at the end of the season is Foundry, home and away. And I think there was like a point or something, or 2 points between us. And we went up on I think it was the Tuesday night, the Foundry, and beat them 1-0. And I think that set it up that we only needed a draw on the Saturday at Ards Rangers. And I tell you, it was the only time that the Amateur League, I think, have presented the trophy on the day. And the crowd, huge big crowd, lovely sunny day. And it was one of those games where don't make a mistake, It was a case of nerves. Wasn't it probably the greatest game in the world, but it was winner take all. And the feeling that day was absolutely superb. I think Ryan Newbury scored the winner. I think there's still a picture up on the wall down at the club where he's whirling away with his arms in the air. But it was just such a relief, because you'd come right the way through it, and then you start to look back over the season where we maybe scored a goal in the last minute. I think it was one down at Ailey McGee, I always remember. Jimmy Patterson scored one for the winner near the end, and you start to look back over the season, and then all the wee moments in games where a point or something has made the difference at the end of the season. But the day itself is just a superb day. A winner near the end, big crowd, get presented with a trophy. It was super now. It really was. Actually, I played the first time the Rangers won the league was when Eric Halliday was manager. And when I left Loughgall, I went and played for a season for Ards Rangers back then. So I'd got a league winners medal with Eric back in, must be, I don't know, 20 odd years ago now, long time ago.
I think I done my research. I think it said 97, 98. Was that probably right?
I probably was around then, because I left Loughgall Christmas and played that bit of the season, and then I think I played the next season for Eric, and we won the league, and it was super, like. But the most up to date one there was fantastic, I think when Lee took over, he probably told you the story where they were in 1A and he got promoted, and then he started to get this team together, and took a bit of time, but we got over the line. The biggest sort of team against us in that stage were Newington, and then it sort of went on to the Crumlin Star after that. But the first one probably definitely would be the toughest and most enjoyable, I think, with the one against Foundry, sorry, I'm talking about here. And then the next one was hard as well. And winning that amateur league is really difficult. So it's some of the teams in it are really good sides, and they regularly beat teams in the championship and championship one and different cup competitions, as you see. So Yeah, the first one I'd say against Foundry, just because of the manner it happened, the home and away, and both teams needing to win the games, and luckily enough we come out on top.
It's one of them leagues as well where very rarely, now there has been a couple of instances the last couple of years where teams get cut off the bottom, but very rarely does that happen, and most teams, even down towards the bottom of the table, can be competitive on their day and can beat the top teams. And it's just throughout the course of the season, it's just such a difficult league to win, and to do it the way you did it with Lee, where come up through 1A and then built momentum and just went from there. It was some going to what you've done, and then almost like a 15-year difference, or maybe longer, from the time you'd won it with Ari Calday as well. That year you won it with Ari Calday, what was that like? Were you always ahead, or was there a stage of the
No,
season where you just had to fight back? Or
that was actually in Killalay where the team to beat. They were winning cups and league titles, etc. So what happened? I think they'd been successful in the cups and had a load of games to catch up.
Yeah.
So we had actually finished our campaign that year, and Killalay in the last match had to go to Coke, and they needed I think they needed the win against Coke, or was it a draw? One of the two anyway, whatever it was. But they they needed to win. That's what it was. I think they needed to win, and we were basically getting reports back of people that went up to watch the match, and I think they hit the crossbar, cleared off the line, and all the pressure, and eventually they ended up drawing, I think it was, at that stage, and we won the league on the back of it. But small margins, in football, small margin, it could have been so different. But yeah, they went to Coke and they couldn't do it, so we won the league that year. But looking back on that team as well, there were some great players. Eric was able to pull players from all over the country. I don't know, we had some contacts, people from Ballymena and people from Crossgar, just all over the place. He used to pull players from everywhere, but we had a good group of players who've all had decent careers after that. But yeah, that was good times, but long time ago. My memory's not the greatest, as I say.
Eric as well, when you talk about people within the amateur league who've been so successful, Eric Halliday is one of the most well known within the amateur league circles because of what he's done at various clubs. And was it different for you guys? Obviously, it was completely different when you won the league with first time in league, but did it feel different as players because you couldn't do anything? Like, you just had to wait and hope that Killalay slipped up? And even come that last day, were you thinking optimistically they're going to slip up here, or were you just thinking, no, they're going to go and do what Killalay do and win the league?
Thought they were just going to be honest, we thought they were just going to go in, because they'd won so many, I think it was about 5 or 6 games they had to catch up, and they just kept ticking them off, win, and right to the last one. And probably a better run out of steam on their part, and having to play so many games. But delighted that happened, to be honest with you. But completely different than the Albert Foundry games. I've probably not experienced anything like that for a long time. It's just the way the fixtures fall for the top 2 teams to be playing in the last 2 games of the season, in the last week of the season, winner takes all. It was something special, and the character just to get over the line, which was fantastic that day.
At what stage then did, obviously you had your success for Ards Rangers first team, what stage did you think that this is me pretty much done with first team football and I'll move down to a second? You said then became a player manager with seconds.
I probably would have dropped down a lot more, but Lee kept forcing me to, no, you can still play, and I was like, no, I can't. I know, yourself, you just, there's times where there'd have been, you'd have got to the ball previously when you're younger and you just can't do it and your legs start to, but he was always, no, you can still do it, and eventually I had to say, no, I can't anymore. But because I was assistant player manager, so I was Lee's assistant for quite a number of years, as well as I was still playing. And I still love playing, and I still to this day still love playing. So the way it sort of fell, the second team were having a great spell at that stage, and there was an opportunity then for to go in and try and turn that around a bit, but to be able to still play. So he was there, he was understanding at that stage. He understood that I still wanted to play rather than just concentrating being the assistant manager, and sort of worked because of the way the second team were at that stage. And went and took over, I think, at about 3 or 4 points. We were struggling down at the bottom of the league, and we ended up turned it around and got us safe and got us up sort of mid-table by the end. And it suited me as well because I was still enjoying playing, but I was getting a bit of experience at the management side as well. So it was a win-win. And then the next year was the same. I played again for the seconds and player manager for them, Adrian McCourt. Remember the ex-Irish referee?
Yes, yeah.
He's my assistant
for
the seconds, and he's still assistant manager for me now.
Does he calm you down? Have you ever gone buck shit the referees?
Yeah, it's funny actually.
He keep your head, he's my mate. It's all right.
It's funny. He would be at the start very much, calm down, you can't. And then I see him now getting riled and shouting at referees and stuff, where in the past it was me, and now it's went full circle and it's him, and I'm trying to calm him down now. It's they say surround. One of the things that I was told, if you're going into management, is make sure you surround yourself with people who you can trust.
Yeah.
And that is so true. It really, it's so important that you can trust someone that you're working with, and I do, and it works. So for the two of us, it works. And then I've got a coach brought in there, Michael Davis. Michael, he's a brilliant coach, bit full on, bit eccentric with it, but he's a good coach, and it's a good bit of banter between all of us there, and we have a good wee group.
Would you earlier I said when I introduced you, I said manager stroke head coach, because it's starting to sort of see now there's a change. When I grew up in amateur league football, it was always there was a manager, and he also did a coaching, but he just was the manager. Whereas these days it's slightly different, where you get some guys who will coach a team and they'll do all the trainings, or you get guys who stand back like me. I can coach, but I leave the coaching to guys who are a bit better qualified, and I prefer to stand back and just manage and delegate kind of thing. But what way would you see yourself with Ards Rangers? What way have you approached it?
I pretty much like yourself. I'm going to try to do bits and pieces at the start, but I've got Michael in as a coach, and we work well together in terms of, he'll ask me, what do you want to work on? And I'll tell him I want to work on shape, or I want to work on, whatever it may be, and then he'll put a session together and base it on that. It means that I can take a step back and watch it, because I think it's very difficult if you're doing the coaching yourself to actually see things that are happening on the pitch, where if you step back to the side, it's a lot easier to take it in, and I can then step in if there's something I want to change or I don't like, or I want to put something else into it. I can then step in and I get a better view of it from the side, to be honest with you. So I also brought, there's another guy, Gordy Kenny, who was with Ards Rangers before, the goalkeeping coach, so he's come back on board with me as well. So having that specialist coach for a specialist position, has made a big difference as well. So yeah, definitely on that side of it, I step back and we work on what I want to work on, and I can intervene at whatever time, but Michael puts good sessions together, for the guys. But yourself, you've only got a limited period of time. It's very difficult to fit things in, and it's very difficult to keep them, I can say, not motivated, keep them sort of, you don't want to go on and do something for too long. And sometimes maybe we do things that are too long, where you need to keep their minds active, and you need to keep changing it and keep the session fresh, and sort of make sure they're all motivated. And so it's difficult to do it within that small window of time. We only get like an hour on a Tuesday and an hour on a Thursday, and even to work on set pieces, you don't really have enough time.
I know that's the thing. I've had discussions before with people where you've got a lot of players as well who probably don't do any training outside of when they turn up on a Tuesday and Thursday night, and you have to keep them fit enough to play, but you also want to work on elements of your game, whether it be set pieces, patterns of play, and it is a difficult thing to do. And then, like you said as well, because you only get so little amount of time, and when you're in the thick of coaching, it's hard to sort of see things and see and basically envisage what way you think the players are going to play for your system. And there's a lot to it to take in. And although it is only 2 hours during a week, we probably as coaches think about it all week long. Your game coming up this Saturday, and you only get 2 hours to really look at things and then take it in and then try and then implement that in your game plan for a Saturday. So it does become difficult.
It's taken me 3 years since taking over. It's the third year. I always knew what sort of way I want to play, and I have a type of football that I want to play, and it's sort of taken me to now to get the players in who can actually play the way I want to play. And now it's just so frustrating that you now have the pieces in place, but you can't go and implement anything now because just with the whole COVID thing. But I think I'm still learning when he's sort of in my third year of managing and at this level, and it's a learning. It's every week's a learning, and have I made mistakes? 100%. I think it's just all about learning from them and moving on, and not being afraid to take advice from other people as well. Don't be, ultimately it falls on yourself, and it has to be your decision. But I'm very open in terms of if anybody gives me an opinion, I'll take it on board. And sometimes that someone else's sort of view on it will change your thinking as well, because you're maybe blinkered and thinking about no, this is what I think, and then somebody maybe pricks your imagination. Well, actually, that might work, And this year, it's just frustrating in terms of now I've got the players who can play play the way I want to play the system that I want to play, and I just can't get implemented now, which is so frustrating. Where previously, when Lee left, he basically left just before, I think it was just before the end of June. And the chairman at the time, Gordon Stewart, he had said to me, "Look, can you come and chat to us about this? We want to have a chat about taking it on." Now Lee was going to Knockbreda, and he had said to me about going up to Knockbreda with him and being his assistant manager up there. So I had a lot of thought about it, and because I managed the second team myself, I sort of thought now was a time where when you've been a manager yourself, you want to implement your own ideas and things, then I sort of took the plunge and went for it. But again, remember, it's still the team that we had put together with Lee, everyone left. Like, I mean, everyone left. So I was sitting there at the end of June, and I didn't have one player. Like, literally did not have one player. So I remember sitting in a coffee shop. There was myself, Adrian McCourt, and a couple of senior players that played for me in the second team, Stevie Shaw and Alan Reid. And we were just basically got a bit of paper and started writing names down. And right, what about this? What about this? And the guys I used to play with him, we asked him, and it was literally just a case of getting as many names down as possible. And at that stage, because it was so late in the season, phoning them and seeing who we could get. And to be honest, when we started, probably about a month in, when we had about 3 or 4 defeats, I was going to myself, what have I done here? What have I done here? And I started questioning myself. But then as things started to improve, we got a result, got a couple of players in, and it was funny, it sort of snowballed in. We got a couple of half-decent players in, and then another couple of half-decent players. And when other players sort of seen the ones that you're signing, it was a lot easier. When it didn't have any team, people were then reluctant to come because they were thinking, oh, you're going to be the whipping points here, and they didn't want to join because basically you had nobody established there already. So that was probably the most challenging time as in my fledgling management career. But we got through it. We ended up finished about 6th or 7th that year, which was a great achievement.
It's incredible, really. Considering it's no players at the start of June.
The remit was sort of keep us in the league, basically, because of the way things had fallen with losing all the players, and we overachieved probably. But there's a learning curve for me as well, because you were having to go into different games against different teams and adapting your tactics to what I had. So my 11 players, I knew I couldn't go against Crumlin Star and go toe-to-toe with them. So I was having to put a game plan in place to try and, counteract what the other threats of the other teams were. So that in itself was a learning curve, and, using different formation, using different players for different matches, and, it worked. And then the second year, I actually thought, and I learned a lot from the second year. We didn't do as well. I think we finished probably about 10th or something like that. But I thought to myself, some of the players that I brought in were going to do quite well this year, but that wasn't the case because it was the wrong type of player. I know that now, I looked at this player, look at that, he's a great player, he's a tricky player, he'll do But you know what? See, when you needed to dig in, sometimes that type of player doesn't work for you. So it was a real learning for me in the second year in terms of the type of player I needed to bring in. And then on to this year, I developed it again, and we're able to bring in the players that I actually wanted. And it started to go quite well for us, and then everything sort of went Pete Tong with everything else, you know.
It is as well. Like it's the first year you had, it can sometimes be a case of the players know what kind of situation they're in, and then they all muck in together. It's like in the trenches, and the wins you get in those times, even though it's probably the hardest part of management when you're going through a period like that, trying to build a team from nothing, and then you're sometimes getting bad defeats, and a club which had been so used to success. But when you get wins in those moments, it can mean so much. But like you said, then the second thing, that the hard thing the second year was then bringing in players who were going to keep that mentality, but also improve a team, which is such a hard thing to do. It's such a hard balance to create. So it is.
Definitely, I look at it now, and you know, what is getting a successful team? It doesn't mean putting 11 supposedly great players out there, because you're going to have, as they call, the water carriers. You're going to have the match winners. You're going to have the 6 or 7 out of 10 every week. You know, so it's just getting that mix right, isn't it? And in the second year, I went for so-called what I thought were good players rather than having that good mix. And I made a mistake, and it hurt me during the season, because you're then getting the case of, because you were going so well, people weren't turning up for training, and it wasn't a great time. So it was just a very frustrating time, but a great learning curve for me, because I learned so much from sort of the adversity of that, and what type of player I wanted moving forward, which is
obviously you're learning on the job as well, like we all are as coaches and managers. But do you take much from managers you've played under in the past, the likes of Barry Calday, or during your Ice League career? I'm sure you played for a lot of good managers in those days as well.
I think a lot of one of the things that I found hard, because I'd only finished playing and then going straight into the management side of it, I found it quite difficult. I think the biggest, and I say to my players all the time, the hardest thing that I find is leaving people out, because with me only finished a short time, you want to play as a player, you want to play every week. So when I'm leaving people out, I know what they're feeling as a player, because it's only recently been finished myself, and I struggled with that bit at the start, but ultimately I have to do what's right for the team, for what I think is going to win the game and stuff. But I did struggle with that. But the man management side of it, I've learned from, like Eric Holiday. He was always great at the man management. He'd come over and he'd put his arm around the players that he needed to. The other ones, he'd go and give them a bit of a rocket. That need to flip and give me a bit more here. So that side of it, from some of the managers I played under, is definitely put me in good stead over the years. I've had bad managers too, don't get me wrong. I've had, without getting into name names, I've had some absolutely drunken managers who had not got a clue about man management, and they tried to sort of broad brush across everybody. This is the way I'm going to treat everybody, and it doesn't work like that, because you have so many different personalities in that changing room, and it's up to you to know how to deal with each individual to get the best out of them. And some of the managers, when I look back now, and I go, my goodness, like, you just were so bad, even with the younger players, going in and giving them an absolute rollicking because they've done something wrong in the game or whatever. And it's not the way to go. There's a time and place, and don't get me wrong, I probably, when I lose the BAP, like I lose the BAP, and the players know about it. Probably, as time has went on, and especially in Ards Rangers here, they'll probably tell you I've mellowed quite a lot. But I know that dealing with the players, you got to deal with them in a certain way. Yourself, and probably doing it. There's the ones who'll react better to a kick up the ass, and there's the ones who like the arm around them and tell them how good they are, and it's that mix. But so I suppose, to answer your question, yes, playing under so many managers over the time period, good and bad, has shaped me into what I want to be. And as I said to you at the start, and I make no excuses or apologies about it, I like to win. I don't like to get beat. And see these ones that are the biggest bugbear. I'll tell you a bugbear. You'll probably see it yourself. See on Facebook on a Saturday night, I wouldn't go on and post anything about football and stuff like that. Once in a blue moon, it's probably not about Ards Rangers, about Man United getting beat or something like that anyway. But I hate, bugbear of mine, somebody puts up the self-publicist, scored just the 2 that they scored or whatever. Your team maybe got beat 4-2, but they're putting up about the 2 goals they scored, and you're like, really? You see the good players that I've played with or against, they don't need to go and publicise that they're good players because people know, their peers know that they're good players, and they don't need to do that. And I see it happening so many times, it makes me blood boil. And you probably see it yourself, we could beat 4-2, but I scored 2 goals. Well done, pat in the back for you.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's a social media generation as well, isn't it? Yeah. No, it's one of the things as well. You said earlier about your wife knows when you come home whether or not you've had a victory or not. And one thing I've learned is going on is being able to remove yourself from it. Because when I first went into first team management, especially, like it just mattered. You felt like I moved from second team to first team as well, and you felt like every game you were being scrutinised almost, and because then people were comparing you to what they thought a first team manager should be, especially if the first team's been successful before. And like you said earlier as well, you make 100 mistakes, but one mistake, the mistakes you make, I made mostly was trying to figure out which players you have to put arm around and which players you can give a rollicking. But you're only going to know sometimes if you make a mistake. It's basically 50-50. You take a chance, will this player react well to a rollicking, or will this player react better to an arm around his shoulder? And then you make that decision. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. But it's good as well that you've taken from poor managers and coaches you've had as well, because you do have to, you can learn from negatives sometimes more than positives throughout the game, really. So you can.
I think that's one from the poor manager side of it. I've probably learned, believe it or not, more from that. And when I look back and I go to myself, that's just not the way to do things. And I try as much as I can. Sometimes you just got to be blunt and say it how it is. But I try as much as I can to steer away from the negative things that I've experienced myself. But as I said to you, when I first came into the management, I would lose my bop, and it wouldn't be the first time that tactics boards have flew up the changing room with bins and stuff like that. Where now I sort of calmed it down, and maybe that was just a case of coming in at the start and the pressure, just trying to keep us in the league and things like that. But I've definitely found that dealing with it in a different way gives the best results. So it's
What's the expectations now for Ards Rangers? Is it to be competitive again first and foremost, and then try and get that success again with titles and maybe push for cup competitions?
Ultimately, it's for me as a player, as I said to you all the way through this, it's all about winning. Yeah. And I want players who want to play for me that are winners. I don't want anybody to come in there and where they're there. Oh, it's a nice wee team to play for, and we want to win games. And ultimately, if you win games, win enough games, you'll be pushing for things. And I wouldn't say that that's going to happen next season or whatever, but we're going in the right direction, and the players that were brought in are good players. I mean, some of the ones, Phil Simpson has come and joined us there. I mean, you probably remember he played for the Glens and stuff like that. And so he's come in, he's a great leader in there, and he's a good footballer as well. And supports Liverpool, which God love him,
But the likes of him coming in, he's not coming in to just finish his career. He's there to win trophies.
100%. If Ryan Newbury, who's back with me there now, he was there in a team that I won the league with Lee. And you have, I'll go through the players of Lewis Roy, who's been with me from the start. And Lewis is just a great player, but he never misses training. He's 100%er, and he can play as well, and he can play in any position. I mean, players like that are such a bonus for you. I could play him at right back, I could play him at left back, I could play him at centre half. I could play him in midfield. I know I'm going to get a tune out of him. You know, he's that type of player. Although I put him in the left back now, and he scored more goals than I think he scored in his career. So I'll take the credit for it. Although he won't say that to me, but Jamie Patterson is back, who played in Lee's team. David Ferguson, Fergie, the goalkeeper's back there as well. So we've a few from the old guard have come back, but we've other players that have come in. Striker there, James Softly, who went from Dundela, and then he's playing for St. Field and stuff there. But work rate in the fella is absolutely unbelievable. He is just loves scoring goals. You can just see he's a general centre forward, but he just doesn't give, centre halves a minute, and that's why he scores so many goals. You can see his work ethic, and he's one of those guys as well who you talked about a lot of local training. He's on Strava all the time. He's actually out doing 5-mile runs. He's doing hill sprints. He's doing, all the things that basically someone who wants to succeed and who's hungry to succeed will do. So he's come in. I haven't got a chance to use him competitively yet. Another player that I have in the team there who's just an absolute superb footballer, Michael Hunter. Most humble guy you'll ever meet. Right? I tried to sign him before, and then he'd come over this 2 years ago. He played a full season, and then he was back this season. But an absolutely superb footballer, and just a really nice guy as well. The guys just all call him the North Down Messi and wind them up about that, but his feet were absolutely unbelievable. It's one of those ones where the keeper's kicked it and just comes out of the sky, and he just plucks it out of the sky one touch. And his awareness in football brain are great to see, where someone plays it into his feet and he's flicking it round the corner and moving off. And him and Ryan Newbury's a superb player. We know him as well. And they play really, really well together. Trying to think not leave any of them out, because they'll all say if you've left me out, or whatever. But those type of players, they're just really, really good footballers. And as I say to them, see if you can play like that. Play in the right areas. Go and express yourselves. Go and play. Like say Ryan Ruby's, your Michael Hunters, your James Softleys, in the right areas. Play. Get the ball and play. See when we were playing there in the 10th pre-season we had probably there, but some of the football that they moved the ball through midfield was absolutely superb, and it was one touch, two touch, and I was actually great at the set. I was really, really enjoying. You know yourself. Sometimes you're watching your team and it's not enjoyable, and you're like, just want to get the result today here in whatever way. It's just not enjoyable today. Watching them, and it was actually really, really enjoyable to watch. And some of the things that we had done in training, like patterns of play, or some of the passing drills that we've done, and they didn't realize that they'd taken that into the game. We were watching from the side and saying, well, that's what they're doing in the different drills and training, but they hadn't realized that they were doing that in the match situation, and it was good to watch from the side and see that they were incorporating that into the games. Somebody else in there, Jason Walls as well. He's loves the party, but he can play. He can play football. Just on the playing side of it, he's a very, very good footballer. Trying to think, Aaron McKee. Aaron's 30, 37, but he's played through all the levels of Irish League football. So he came back in this year, and haven't had a chance to use him either. So we've a good side, a good mix. I tell you, there's one wee player in pre-season, Aaron Dunlop. He did his cruciate. He didn't do his, or was it his medial? It was one of the two anyway. He slight tear in it, and thought that was him out for the season. So the wee man was devastated, because he had started off so well. He was flying, scoring goals, and done this knee injury. Well, I think his knee injury is nearly healed now, because it hasn't been any football. So he hasn't. I think he was doing a few prayers to get the season put off, so he didn't miss any. But so he'll be back again. But I think you touched on something as well. I was trying to keep the group together. We work so hard in getting that group of players together, and it is a really good group of players and a really good squad. It's trying to keep them all. You never know what's going to happen between now and when we ever get started again, and will I have to start again, or will anybody leave, or will somebody come in? Because amateur football, there's always somebody trying to take your players.
That's it. And then it never stops. That bit never stops. It keeps going. Football may stop, but that bit keeps going. It's like us week, our pre-season, the first pre-season we had in July. I was looking at what sort of team we were going to have come the start of the season, and which we thought it was going to be possibly August, September, like it normally is. And now about 5 of those players have left, and about 5 new players have come in, and it's going to be completely different. And then players are joining in between lockdowns, leaving teams and joining teams, and coaches are changing and managements are changing. So football's going on, but we're not actually able to play it.
I think the problem that you might have as well is, say for example, the amateur league don't say, right, we're not gonna play this season, but you may have some other leagues that are going back. So will players then say, well, I'm going to go and finish the season somewhere else? And if that happens, it opens the door for players to move to other clubs when, if you're not playing in your league.
There's the risk at even at the start of the season, the Mid-Ulster started early enough, and one of our players got a phone call from a guy and says to him, will you come up and play for us? He says, no, I'm not interested, I'm happy where I am. He goes, no, but your season isn't starting yet, so you can play for us now until your season starts back. He was like, well, we're going to be playing friendlies and still going to be training with my team, but that's what your man's like pitch was, come play for us competitively until your season starts back. But it has to be the AFA that makes a decision, really. And leagues being given the authority to do things means you're always going to have a disparity somewhere, whereas it needs to be AFA saying we're playing this date or we don't play or whatever, and take it out of the league's hands. But there's no direction from the AFA whatsoever in regards to all this.
Okay, hopefully, like they come up with something, and even if it's no promotion relegation, but it's something competitive, maybe a cup at the end of it or something or whatever, it'd be good. But obviously, it has to be safe for everybody to go and do that, because I know everybody's situation's different as well. And as much as I want to go and play football, I understand that it could be somebody who's maybe their wife's a nurse, or they maybe work in a care home, or they maybe, you just don't know what people's circumstances are. And I think one of the things I've sort of said to my guys is, like, if you do have an issue, just give me a wee phone call. It'll be totally confidential. And if you have any concerns or whatever, come and chat to me. I mean, everybody's circumstances are different, and in these times, I think it's just, you need to be careful what way you deal with it.
At the start of it, I found it because the virus affected such little amount of people. At the start, when we were in the first lockdown, everybody was just happy to come out and play. But as time's going on, it's affecting more and more people, and because more people's families are being affected by it, they might be concerned about going back to football unless it becomes safer, and that's something we're going to have to deal with as well as coaches. If we ever do get back or whatever. And is your boy still, are you trying to keep him taking over in some way, or he's doing anything at all? Or
we were on that Strava, and we were getting him to do bits and pieces, but if I'm being totally honest with you, it's with nothing in sight, and basically you just don't know. We've had so many false dawns of when we're going to get started. It's very difficult to get people to commit to do that now. I don't know what you feel like, but I was always up there. I love my football. I mean, that's why I still play now. And, I'm always very upbeat about trying to get back. But now I find myself even getting a bit demotivated. And, if I'm like that, trying to motivate your players is difficult. And at least if we had something to aim for, it would be a lot easier to try and get boys to buy into it. But just with the uncertainty, we've sort of, coaches sort of been sending things out and saying, look, you can do this or you do that, or different wee programs and stuff, but we haven't been really enforcing it or anything like that. It gotta be
that's the same as us. Optional training until we get an idea of when we're going to start. It's optional training, and I think for some guys they might want to do the training if it's not fitness, it's sanity.
I think our club, in fairness to them, I mean, there's been a big change down at Ards Rangers in the last sort of. Gary Gallagher's now taken over. Gordon Stewart was chairman for years, did a fantastic job, and then Gary Gallagher's come in, and he's taken over, and with the club now, I think Gordon and all would tell you, those guys did it for years and years and years, and just basically age caught up on them in the end for the things that they wanted to do. So the committee brought on Gary as a chairman, and a few other younger ones and stuff. And the work that we've been doing around the club is absolutely fantastic. And all voluntary guys coming in and working on the bar area, working on the function room. The work we've done is absolutely fantastic. Even all my moaning, I moaned about getting a good pitch, and you want me to get good players, you know, get the good pitch to play on. And actually, at the start of the season, we got the pitch. We got work done on the pitch, spent plenty of money on it, and haven't really got using it competitively after that. But the work that they're doing, even on the social media side of it, behind the scenes, people are doing it in their own time, linking in with the suicide awareness and that side of things. Just there's so much that's been going on social media, keeping people active during the lockdown period. You know, different wee things that just.
I seen you've done a greatest Ards Rangers team of all time. Was it the votes over the last couple of weeks, which was very good?
They were making a rod. I told them they're making a rod for their own backs, because there's always people who are going to get left out of that. And I think it was over the last 10 years or something they put it up. And then, of course, you got R1. So I think such and such should have been in. I think he should have been in. I think he should have been in. And that's always going to happen. I think it was just for a bit of fun. But they've done different things where, like music videos and stuff, where they're sending you had to sing certain words of a song, and then it was all patched together. So you'd have done a certain bit of the song, I'd have done another bit, somebody else had done another bit, and they patched this all together. And we've done several of those during lockdown where they put all these bits of music and stuff together, and different wee things that they've done. The Facebook side of it has been superb, and the support and stuff that they've offered through different avenues, you know. So
because people don't realise sometimes, especially people not involved in football, it's not just about kicking a ball about in the pitch, it's the community 100%. That you have with your club, and the outside of it, it's even if you don't stay for a load of drinks after, it's sitting in the change room after, or sitting in the bar after and watching the scores coming in, having a chat. And once you take all that away, it can become difficult for people. And I know I find it difficult because it's all, and you're you're a football man, it's all you've ever known really, and then all of a sudden just all that's gone.
It's taken away. And you know, I was chatting to you earlier, I mean, football was my release. A few issues I had with my elderly parents and stuff like that, and football was my release. Basically, I'm dealing with that. You're working, you have your own family, and then football just gives you a wee release. And for so many people, it works so many different ways. But you know, you're training on Tuesday and Thursday, getting together with your mates or your players or whatever, and then the Saturday side of it probably means so much that in different ways. I mean, that was my way. I was released from that, but I'm sure there's other people who have got maybe stresses at work or different issues and stuff, and football is their way of getting away from it as well. And you know, it will be, if it's not back on to, say, for example, August or whatever it may be, you know, it's a big issue for so many people who may have mental issues or, you know, so many different things. It'll be a big miss, and just hopefully we get through it sooner rather than later.
And the pitch is looking well. It was actually up a couple of months ago. Our over 35s team played NI Masters on it. It looks really well. Well, I wasn't playing. Jesus, no. I just leave that. Were you playing? Were you? I didn't realise. I watched the second half. Right.
Well, most of us are over 45 in fairness, like, but I think the over 35s league, there's too many players still playing now when they're 35. So you find that they're playing on a Saturday for an amateur league team, and then they come and play in that over 35s league on a Sunday. Probably if they did it over 40, it would probably be a fair reflection, because the idea of the whole thing was to get people back into, or to continue playing when you're that bit older, where there's so many players in the amateur league now are still playing when they're between 35 and 40.
Mid-30s,
yeah. So that was a tight game, that actually.
I was, yeah. Our boys, some of them play for Ford, and some of them have come in from other clubs who don't have over 35s, and just they've kind of just formed together this year, and I really enjoy it. I enjoy the games because the players know, like, they're at that stage where you don't get many more games left, and you get your normal Saturday games where players just know they're going to be playing the next week. So sometimes they'll go through emotions, they'll stroll about, but the effort levels then boys put in them 35s game, and then the will to win never leaves players, like, so it doesn't either.
And it's actually, I like it in terms of, because I have the Saturday where when I finish playing football, you miss it so much. Nothing will replace it. Management doesn't replace it. See the playing side of it. I mean, I played from what it was under 10s or something like that right the way through, you know, and it can't be replaced by, I don't care what anybody says, the playing side will never be replaced. You try to replace it with the management side, but it's different. It's completely different than the actual playing side. So I get the beauty of playing in that over 35s league, which keeps me that side of the competitive playing bit, but then I get the management on the Saturday as well. So it suits me lovely at the minute. Who knows when that's going to go back as well. But as you say, the will to win in those boys in that league, it doesn't leave you ever. It doesn't. I mean, some of the tackles and all that fly in there, can be X-rated at times.
And then you're the defending champions as well, so have that.
We have a decent, I think, because we're an older side. I think what happens is we need to keep the ball a lot more because we don't have the legs of some of the younger players. And we tend to find a lot of them games that maybe in the first sort of 30, 35 minutes, the other team comes at us quite a lot, and you know they'd be giving us a lot of pressure. But as the game goes on, you sort of try and take the legs away from them, and then it becomes a more even game as they tire, and then we're able to keep the ball a bit better. But some players playing that as well. I mean, Brian Strain had played in there. Mark Glendenning played for us in the past. Craig Docherty, Jimmy McElhager has been about the amateur league. Sammy Wallace, Paul Muir. You know, so they've all. Sorry if I've missed anybody out there, but they've all played at really good levels, and you know it's nice to play in because it's a different type of football. Because you all just want to play football, and you all with no option really now. We can't be knocking balls in behind and run on twos. Gotta keep it, you know. And
there's one thing I realised early is there's a couple of our boys who still keep themselves fit even though they stop playing. Just stick them up front and see if you've legs, you're grand in them games. If you've no legs, you're stickered.
I think we went down there and played Green Island. And that's the first time I've ever played on that Green Island pitch. Yeah, and I walked onto it and I just went, oh my goodness, look at the size of this pitch. I just pictured myself trying to get up and down there, like, and it doesn't happen. In your head, you'd love to be able to get into the big wide open spaces, but the legs just don't do it the same anymore. So, but yeah.
During your career, who would be the best players that, well, I've been doing recently because people were saying it was way too hard to pick just one player. If you could name a five-a-side team, you don't have to have a goalkeeper because a lot of people have run away from it. If you could name a five-a-side team, what would you have from your players you've played with or coached?
Let me see now. I'll try and keep it as current as possible because if you go back to there's that many, you probably leave some out. So I'll go on the current players I've played with or managing, whatever now. So you're talking the likes of Ryan Newbury. He's got all the ability in the world. A guy I mentioned earlier there, Michael Hunter.
Yeah.
Because I just love watching him play. It's just as you can tell here, you know, he's a super guy and a super player. I'm probably going to stick at who else I would say. The likes of Big Jared Watson. I go for a centre half. The reason being, he was just a winner. You know, Big Jared, he'd probably tell you that he lacked a bit of ability, but he made up for it, and you know, there's determination and just dragging us through games. And I played with him, and he's one of those players who you like to play with because you knew what you were gonna get, and if there was games that were 50-50, he would have been the one that at that stage as captain of the team to try and drag everybody up with the bootstraps and try and go and get the result. And I think now I played with, I'll go back to one who I played with actually, Soupy Campbell. So played with Soupy and Twinkle Toes his ability, either foot could go either way, and his quick feet. Thought you had the ball, and then the next thing you had the ball away from you. So Soupy Campbell would probably be one in there. Him softly, I don't know. I haven't seen him play in a competitive match, but I think he would be if it was going to be in the future. But I'll tell you, here's one bit of left field for you who I always struggled playing against. Andy Wade.
Right.
Andy Wade. When I always used to play against Andy, people say who was your most difficult opponent, and Andy wasn't the quickest in the world, but I always struggled against him I always thought I struggled against him when I was playing. He was one of those players where you thought you were going to win the ball on a tackle, and the next thing, his feet were quick. His feet were quick. He wasn't the fastest in the world, but I fouled him more times than enough because it was just, and I always remember playing, if I was playing against him, he was one of them players that I always found that had a difficult game against. And yeah, Andy Wade, I'll stick him in there because of that reason. So who have I got there? Andy Wade, Soupy Campbell, Michael Hunter, Ryan Newbury. One more. Won't have to have a keeper. Oh. Let me think. I'll stick another one in here. John McGrath. Played with John at Carrick. Again, all the ability in the world. He got to move the infield actually when we were at Carrick. So football and ability was just superb. Some of the things he done with the football, like they even had the audacity to try with the football was just in itself brilliant, So, and he's a good friend of mine as well, so he owes me a couple of drinks sticking him in that there,
You'd be raging if you didn't pick him.
So I probably missed ones out, but off the top of my head, those guys, you got to probably pick 2 or 3 teams to be honest.
Yeah. I've got a couple of Twitter questions for you. To be fair, they were kind enough, so they were.
I've seen some of the ones the boys were sending me through, and I knew they weren't going to be good. Like,
no, to be fair, I'll usually pick through them anyway. But these ones are dead on. Carl McComb has asked. Well, he said
I've seen this one already.
He said that because you're so small physically and you look up the most, you may find this one hard. But who did you look up to when you were younger?
Oh, that is a good question. Just the football. I think it is a football question you want answered.
Yeah.
Hey, put me on the spot now, that one. I seen that earlier too. I didn't think you put it in. Don't know. I had to come back to that one.
Yeah. Callum Burns has asked, won 3 titles as a player. What would it mean more to win it as a manager?
That's contradicting what I said about playing then, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would be different.
I suppose you won't know until it happens as well.
Yeah, I would love it to happen, to be able to come back and tell you what the answer was. But very difficult to win a league title as a manager. It won't be for the lack of trying, put it that way. But I would say, on what I've said previously, nothing beats as a player. But I don't know.
The last one wasn't even a question. Guy McDermott just wanted you to talk about Ryan Newbury for an hour, but I think we got a good bit of Ryan Newbury in there. So
he says he's number one fan.
I know. I said that his missus must be getting worried about Guy here, so she must.
Gary's a good lad, so he's a good lad, and Gary scored plenty of goals in that team of leagues as well. Him, Upty, and Tony Tumulty and Ricky. I mean, between them, I don't know many goals have scored, but Gary's a good player. That's a pint you owe me, Gary.
Mate, thanks very much for doing this, giving up your time. Really appreciate it, and I've really enjoyed chatting to you as well. Best of luck. I wish us the best of success.
And the same to you, mate. The same to you. I think we're just all busting to get back and playing.
That's it. And then the more people I chat to as well, the more I'll be looking at results and looking out to see how people are doing. Also, I look forward to seeing how they're getting on and seeing how these new players deal together. Make sure.
It's see how many of them are still there, and maybe have to gel different ones together, like yourself.
That's it. The podcast, as always, is sponsored by Jumbo Park Racecourse and Learners Trust Driving School. We'll be back with another interview next week, hopefully. Thanks very much for listening, folks.
Problem.